Set in what can only be described as the 1980s vision of an apocalyptic future, Easy Trigger Games' newly released Huntdown is a game that stands firmly on the shoulders of 80s popular culture and the retro games of the Sega versus Nintendo era. Does this tongue-in-cheek platforming run-and-gunner hold up the legacy of the 16-bit golden era, or has this bounty hunter cashed its last check?
Stick around
to the end of the video to find out my score for Huntdown. From the get-go, Huntdown lets you understand that this is not a game that is going to be taking itself very seriously, or asking you to be immersed in a thought-provoking narrative. From the brilliantly over-the-top narration and deliberately cheesy dialogue, to leaning hard into the 16-bit art style and myriad of action movie references, there are so many references in this game that it almost becomes a minigame in and of itself to see how many references you can spot per level.
Huntdown.
This game wants to make you laugh, as well as get to grips with its explosive gameplay. Huntdown takes place in a familiar format to anyone who grew up in the 90s. Each of the game's levels is a side-scrolling 2D shoot-'em-up with some platforming and verticality thrown in that stops things from ever feeling too flat. There are secrets to find, challenges for killing every enemy or not dying yourself, and plenty of character in each of the game's environments. Controls feel fluid and intuitive, owing more than a little to games like Contra and Metal Slug, and some environments are a clear nod to the recently revived Streets of Rage series, which I also recently reviewed if you are interested. The player takes control of one of 3 colourful bounty hunters who spit just as many cheesy one-liners as they do bullets.
Now that gets the blood pumping.
Each available hunter comes with their own unique primary weapon and projectile. Anaconda, who seems like a female Snake Plissken from Escape from LA, comes equipped with a semi-automatic pistol and axe. John Sawyer, a gruff-voiced, battle-hardened cyborg, favours a more powerful one-shot pistol and boomerang. And my own personal favourite, MoMan, a robotic Grim Reaper, utilising a more rapid-fire pistol and 3 quick-fire daggers. Each of the 3 come packed with as much personality as they do ammunition, with each primary weapon and projectile having infinite ammo, and each character sprite having its own look and feel. Secondary weapon pickups are dotted generously throughout each level. Assault rifles, grenades, submachine guns, baseball bats, shotguns and many others round out a very healthy arsenal. Each of the secondary weapons comes with a finite amount of ammo, however, which encourages picking up every drop you see, rather than finding one weapon and favouring it for the duration. I found each weapon both fun and effective, with the small exception of the high-powered sniper rifle, which has a long reloading time to balance out its high stopping power, but in a game that sometimes borders on bullet hell levels of enemies on screen at any one time, it was not a very effective weapon. One note I think the game maybe did miss was I feel it could have taken a leaf out of Golden Axe's book and included some sort of screen clearing super move for when the game does get a bit hairy, especially on the higher difficulties, and something hopefully included in Huntdown 2. If you do pick up Huntdown, you will likely find your own favourites and style. I personally enjoyed the kick and feeling of a shotgun, and how the enemies react when hit with a Molotov cocktail and burst into flame. And I definitely found MoMan's dagger projectile to be the best of the 3, and I do tend to favour quicker characters in most games. Enemy types come equipped with just as much weapons as the bounty hunters do, and a few more besides. You will want to make use of the game's unique cover system, hiding behind destructible crates or barrels, as well as ducking into almost 3D space with some of the game's more open doorways. As the game progresses, enemies begin to flood the screen at a higher rate, increasing the challenging but comfortable learning curve. Every level culminates in a unique boss battle that ranges from a Running Man-esque half-naked flame-throwing pyromaniac.
I am the god of hellfire, and I bring you toast!
To a war veteran with screaming PTSD. Surprisingly, none of the boss types ever felt like a repeat of a previous boss, and the game never employed the cheap tactic of making you fight a previous boss again, or fight multiple previous bosses repackaged as a new boss fight. This is something that plagued most of the games of the 16-bit era, and even some modern games that try to feel retro. Early boss fights are challenging enough but very fair and easy to overcome. Later boss fights do begin to suffer a little bit, however, as some of them require you to memorise an exact pattern, and it becomes clear that that's really the only possible tactic to use, which unfortunately eliminates some of the game's established play-it-your-own-way style. Some boss fights on your first turn might actually seem completely impossible. You're seeing that they have an energy bar, you get it down, they get another one, and you die having lost all of your health very quickly. There is a developer's intent tactic there somewhere that it shouldn't take you more than 2 or 3 turns to find. Once you tune yourself into each boss's tactic, however, it is still fun to overcome the challenge and puzzle of these later fights. At the end of each level, your bounty hunters return to their car to be briefed on the next bounty. These briefs are handed out via on-screen conversations with the mysterious Wolf Mother, also known as Miss Rose, who goes on to brief you on each of the game's gangs and gang leaders. It's here you're introduced to the colourful gangs like the Hoodlum Dolls, who are your standard street punk enemy from 80s culture, or the Misconducts adorning their hockey attire. This all helps to flesh out the game's world and plot. From this screen you can look at intel for each of the game's level bosses, showing a brief profile and crime history injected with the game's now signature humour. Both the art style and tone of these scenes in between each level really reminded me of early GTA, like GTA 1, GTA 2 cutscenes. Also something more modern like Retro City Rampage, and those aren't bad company. I think as long as you go into the game knowing that the game is very deliberately cheesy, all of the dialogue is sort of intentionally silly, then most of the comedy will land for you. And anything that doesn't land, you can just, you know, chalk it up to 80s movies being kind of crap, you know, in a fun way. Playing through the game in the available co-op mode, however, is where it really all came together for me. The game definitely seems like it was designed with co-op play in mind more so than single player. Now, instead of switching between weapon pickups almost constantly, you and your player 2 can decide which weapon they will likely stick with, and the game seems to understand this, dropping submachine gun and shotgun ammo in an almost predictable one-on, one-off fashion, so that both players have a readily available stock at an even pace. The previously mentioned sometimes manic bullet hell sections are also evened out, with the addition of a second hunter watching your back, and playing with my girlfriend we discovered secret areas that I had missed the first time through with the benefit of another pair of eyes, and with no friendly fire to worry about, the cover system remains as effective as before. Huntdown harkens back to one of gaming's golden ages, taking some of the best with it and leaving some of the clunkiness or notorious difficulty of the arcade-based retro gaming behind. It doesn't break any new ground, but there is an authenticity to how it presents itself, and it does so with its tongue planted firmly in its cheek. As someone who loves a good nostalgic throwback and cheesy one-liner, I rate Huntdown 8 out of 10. Not one to miss. What's your favourite cheesy one-liner from a film? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to help support the channel and subscribe to see more MrConeman content. Thanks for watching everyone, and stay safe.